Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, today I am joined by a very special guest. I have Jessica Hendrick, who is a conscious relationship coach, and she will be teaching us and teaching me how to use triggers and conflict to heal and alchemize your relationship, both with yourself and in a partnership. Jessica, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much, James. Thanks for having me.
How is your day going?
It's going great. It's going better now.
Going better now. We finally got round to recording this podcast.
Yeah.
We've been trying to do this for some time, but now we're recording it. I say a long time. It's been a couple of weeks. But in real terms nowadays, that could be years, couldn't it? Because the weird things that are going on in the world. Anyway, tell me and my audience about yourself and what makes you a conscious relationship coach.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so I call myself a conscious relationship coach. What that means is that really, I use any relationship that I'm in to help me learn about myself and expand and grow within myself. And I teach my clients how to do the same thing. So that's what I mean by conscious relationship.
Okay. Are your clients single people or in relationships, or what happens? Who are they?
They're both. So I work with people that are single who are, challenged with dating, similar to you. I work with people who are in relationship, and sometimes we just work one-on-one and focus on, what they'd like to improve in their lives and their relationships. And I also work with couples. So I kind of do the whole relationship game.
Excellent. Because not all my listeners are single. We call this the Love Machine podcast, but it's about bringing more love into your life generally. So not just singles. Everyone's very welcome to listen to this. Bringing more love into your life, whether it's getting a better relationship, a better job, better hobbies, whatever it might be, just increasing the quality. So this is a really interesting topic that we've got today, because not everybody has a completely smooth partnership, do they? Whether they're single or not. They're not happy. They're not sure what to do. So what would you do if someone came to you on this topic? What advice would you give them? Because I believe you've got some steps that you teach people, haven't you?
Yeah. So the process that you were speaking of, how to use triggers to kind of alchemize and heal your relationship. So I didn't even know what a trigger really was.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. So I'll explain that for anybody listening. So a little bit just about me so that you can understand, why I do what I do, is I was really challenged in my romantic relationships for, I would say, 10 to 15 years. And I feel like I've been through kind of the ups and downs of almost every possible challenge you can think of. And one of the challenges that I had was I would react a lot. Like something would happen and I would have this big, huge reaction and I didn't know what caused it. And after I would kind of think like, well, what was that? And that's not really who I am. And I don't understand. And, I got so lucky because I came into the group of conscious relationship coaches in Los Angeles where I live. And I met this beautiful couple, Rudy and Kelly Castro. And this is what they specialize in. And they call it, using a trigger, like the reaction, to uncover a treasure. And
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And the treasure is what you learn about yourself because of the trigger. So I've been training with them and working with them, and they have this beautiful 5-step process to really uncover what's going on underneath that reaction. And I know a lot of my clients, they come to me and they say, I go from 0 to 100, like that at the drop of a hat. I don't know why, and I don't know how to change it. So that's something that I can really help people with.
Do you mean overreacting to little things or getting jealous? What sort of examples do you mean? What was your triggers?
Well, it's hard. I mean, everyone's going to have different triggers. So where they come from is actually our subconscious mind. And it usually traces back to a past experience that we've had, usually in childhood, where, something upsetting happened. And it could be something traumatic or something that just upset us. And we imprint in our brain that memory. And so anytime something bumps up against that memory or touches that memory, we could have a reaction. And, the reaction could be fight, it could be flight, or it could be freeze.
Mm.
So going into that survival response in the brain. So mine tended to be a fight reaction. So I would get kind of loud and yell and all of that. Other people sometimes shut down and say nothing, and other people run. So those are the three.
That's a lot of reactions, isn't it?
Yeah. And it can be really tough to navigate. And what happens is, everyone has different triggers. So someone could say something to me that would create a reaction because it bumped up against a past memory or some pain that I have, but wouldn't have bothered them. So this is how couples get into this situation where like someone says or does something and probably doesn't mean to, but it triggers the other person and it triggers them, they react, then that triggers the other person in the couple. And it's kind of like a ping, 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 like, and it creates a big looping cycle.
Yeah.
And so this is where you can actually free yourself from that looping argument when you understand what's going on underneath the argument.
Got you. I always talk about this on my podcast. These memories from childhood absolutely can destroy you in adulthood, can't they? You look back on them, little comments people make to you, and you take them personally. So I can imagine someone makes a comment. They might give you an example at school. Someone says that you're stupid because you couldn't read the book fast enough. If your partner makes a joke about the same thing, like you're not reading a magazine fast enough, then you take this personally and you react to it. And they don't know what they've done wrong, what they've said wrong. So I completely understand what these triggers could be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how would you deal with this?
Well, I mean, it's basically the key, the medicine is getting in and underneath where the trigger come from. So I have this process that I take my clients through, and we go through, what happened, like what happened, and then what was your interpretation? So what did you make it mean? Because our interpretation is going to be based on our past. Like you said, like the person who said you were dumb or stupid because you couldn't read fast enough, you're going to interpret like, well, my partner thought I was dumb because I wasn't reading, it's going to be something like that.
Yeah.
But the real gold is, where have I felt this way before? Because you can actually tap into those past emotions and then hopefully have a release around it. And the more you can tap into that past wound and release the emotion, the less charge the trigger has. So when it happens again, it won't be as big of a response.
Right. So you won't keep repeating the same cycle.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I hear these things and I consider myself to be quite healed and quite positive and open-minded, but I hear these things and I still think they're worthy experiments to try, even if you are quite settled and quite confident in life. And every time I interview somebody, I hear these things. I think I should try doing that. This is why I love doing these podcasts, because I learn so much from each thing. So even if you think you don't need to do these things, then give them a go anyway, because you might find them really, really beneficial. So what would these 5 steps be? Let's start with the first one. The first one is recognizing it. Is that right?
So the first one is what happened.
Right.
So what happened? So an example, like the example that you used, I was reading a magazine and my partner said to me, "Oh my gosh, you're reading so slowly." Done. Only the facts. So what happened? Just the facts. Number 2, what was your interpretation of what happened? So that's where you get like the story that we tell ourselves, basically, where, well, he thinks I'm stupid. He thinks that, he's smarter than I am. I'm an idiot, like blah, 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 blah. Right. So, and then you go to step 3, what was my reaction? So this is where we get into the fight, flight, or freeze. Right. So depending on your past and how you learn to survive in your home as a child, that will determine your reaction. And sometimes you'll have different reactions depending on different triggers. But so you may get loud and say like, "How dare you think that I'm such an idiot," or whatever. Right. Or you might shut down completely and just withhold, any communication. And so or you might leave.
Sulking.
You might say, right. Or you might say, "I have to go. I'm leaving." So that's the reaction. And you could have, bigger reaction. Like some of my clients will like slam a door or, curse or whatever. And then the 4th one is, where have I felt this before? So where have I felt this way before? So when you tap into the emotions that you're feeling, so you want to ask yourself, like, sorry, step 4 is, what are the feelings underneath the reaction? So am I feeling sad? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling misunderstood, hurt, etc.? So, and I give my clients this feelings wheel, like emotions, because a lot of us don't really go into our feeling state. So what am I feeling underneath it? And, you know, it could be sad, angry, hurt, etc. And then step 5 is, where have I felt this way before? And that's where we can tap into, oh, that was that time in 3rd grade where somebody said I was stupid because I was reading too slowly, and I felt hurt. I felt sad. I felt angry, you know, and a lot of times people have an emotional reaction going back into that memory. And sometimes they cry, or sometimes they yell, and it's good because you want to release that out of the body.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that men are more receptive to this than women, or the other way around?
I don't know. I don't like to make generalizations like that, but I mean, I would say most people in my circle are working on themselves. So it's hard for me to say. I would say, you know, most people in the world don't have this information.
Right.
So like men, women, whatever, like a lot of people are very challenged in relationships. And this is one of the main reasons why, because of the triggers, tapping into old memories, creating reactions, and then you actually time travel. Like, you're confusing the person in front of you for that person in 3rd grade. So they're your enemy.
It's true. And if you're looking for a new partner, you start to look for things in a new partner, looking for reasons to reject them, or they're going to reject you, which are based on past experiences with the wrong people.
Yep.
So many people choose unavailable partners or the unsuitable partners. Do you agree with that?
100%. That used to be me. 100%.
Okay. So what did you do? You did this process, and it helped you work out who was more suitable?
No, I did a lot of other work. So this is the icing on the cake. This is like a helpful tip, but no, I did years of, you know, coaching with people. I did years of therapy. I had a lot to untangle.
Right.
So I wouldn't say this is like the answer to everyone's challenges, but I would say that it definitely helps you. And you can use this in any relationship. So not only romantic, but if something happens at work and something upsets you and a boss says something, you can go through this process and uncover what's underneath it. And the more you uncover your triggers, the more freedom you have, because we only have a few. We don't usually have, you know, 10. It's usually like 3 to 5 things that really hit us, like where it hurts, you know?
It's true. I think everyone knows what these triggers are deep down. They're the things you don't want anyone to bring up or ever mention. And we've all got them. I've got them. I know what my triggers might be. I'm not going to announce them on a podcast, but people that are close to me know what my triggers would be in that situation.
Right.
And that's just normal. It's just based on your childhood. Because the brain likes to process the bad stuff much more than the good things. So I think the secret of all this is to create new memories as well with your partner, whether it's a new partner or it's someone you're already with, and start having new adventures and new memories, and start thinking about what can go right rather than what can go wrong. This is what I say all the time on the podcast. Just create you've got new stories. But having said that, these are very, very strange times right now with the whole pandemic. Do you think people are being triggered more than ever?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Because I think it's a general state of uncertainty, you know, to say the least. And so when people are already feeling uncertain just as a general state of being in the world right now, you are on edge, and you can be triggered much more easily than you were previously, because you're already in that state of like fight or flight, you know? Yeah. So absolutely, I think that.
I think so. It's an ongoing thing, and no one's sure what's going to happen. So we can get more anxious than ever before. So I do like to talk a lot about anxiety and confidence and self-healing on my podcast, because it's so important right now to do this. So what other things would somebody come to you for?
So the crux of the work that I do with my clients is subconscious work, and this process relates to the subconscious, because we store things in our subconscious mind usually between the ages of 0 and 6, where we're little sponges trying to make sense of the world.
Yeah.
And we live our life, you know, based on those beliefs we created as very young children. So what I do with my clients is really uncover these subconscious beliefs and patterns that maybe aren't helping them in the process of dating or in their relationship. And because having awareness around that is key, right? Because if you don't know that you have a belief that love is hard, you're going to go out there and you're going to unconsciously prove that belief right. Like you said, you're going to choose the person who tells you love is, shows you and tells you that love is hard, right? Versus a new belief that might be more peaceful for yourself. So I help people to really uncover those and then rewire based on what they want to create. So we also create a vision for their lives and what they want in partnership and how to kind of move into that space. And it's really creating a new neural network in the brain. So we're going from the old past way of thinking that's created the same results over and over to the new way of thinking. And we're just constantly rewiring it until it becomes automatic.
Love it. I've got a question that something you mentioned a minute ago. You might not know the answer to this. It might not be your area of expertise. I'm going to ask you anyway, because you can probably answer it. If I've got 2 small children, 3 and 7 years old, you're saying that's when these things are all formed in the brain and they're sucking up information, always listening, always questioning. Absolutely agree with you. So I was thinking about how, if you've got children of small children, what can you do to empower them and to make sure they haven't got these problems to face when they're older?
Well, okay, I think that's $1 million question, right? Because I actually don't think it's possible. Like no matter how beautiful and amazing and loving your parents are, there's going to be something that happens because you can't be no one's a perfect parent, no one's a perfect partner. But what I think is really beautiful is if you can kind of have this awareness and this understanding, you can fill your kids up with so much love as often as possible that hopefully their default is that loving voice, right? Because the way that parents speak to their kids actually becomes the inner voice, the internal voice for the kids. So I feel like if you do that more often than not, that's amazing. And if there is a time when, you know, you lose your temper or whatever happen, which will of course happen as a parent, you can actually go through this 5-step process with your kids and say like, oh, this is what happened, you know, and I'm sorry that I lost and just walk them through it and wire it into their brain. And guess how amazing they're going to be when they grow up and they have any kind of challenges. It's really beautiful.
That's always the goal of a parent, to make sure your children are best prepared for the future as possible. But you're right, nobody's perfect. Nobody can have the right relationship or the right bond. Everyone does their best in life. That's all they can do. But you're right. The way you talk to your children is the way they're going to talk back to you. That's what they're going to listen. I've learned that. Little bits of cheekiness, little comments, they all come back. Where attitude, wherever it might be, they're going to throw it back at you. And that's true also when you start dating someone as well, because they're going to model and they're going to adapt to where you are. So you've got to make sure that right from the start, you're training them to be the way that you want them to be, because you can't change them later on. They're going to do what they think is right. Even corresponding, like texting, for example, people say, I don't text enough, or they only want to text and not call. You have to get them to do what you want to do so that right from the start when they're learning these new behaviors. And that way they will be happy going into the future. So you talked about creating new beginnings as well, about going into this so you can have a fresh start and things are much more relaxed and working out who you really are. What advice would you give somebody who is newly single right now in this strange new world and they want to go and meet somebody? How could what stories can they tell themselves to make sure that they're ready to go out there and just have some fun?
I would just do your own work on yourself. Like I wouldn't just try to go find a partner. Like if you've been challenged in relationships, like, and you do the same thing you've been doing, you're going to get the same results. So I would recommend, and this is what I did, is, you know, hiring someone to guide you, to help you, to create what you want to create, because it's absolutely worth it. Like if I had done this if I had done this work 10 years ago, I wouldn't have to go through all the ups and downs and craziness that I went through. And, you know, if we do what we've always done, we get what we've always gotten. So, and there's always like subconscious beliefs and patterns playing in the background. So you can have the best of intentions, like, I'm going to go into this with a new attitude and a new perspective. But if you don't have awareness of your belief system that's probably hindering that, you're going to be very frustrated. So I have a lot of people that are single that I'm working with that actually I've been attracting a lot of people who have recently broken up with someone. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we do their own work. And we talk about, you know, what came up within that partnership. What was like the arguments that you had, what's underneath it, what does that show you about you? And did that work for you or did it not? And usually it didn't. And so what do you want to create moving forward? So we use the past experiences to get really, really clear on, okay, that didn't work, obviously. And so what do you want to create and how do you move forward into that? And from there, like you said, you show up from the very first day embodying what you want to create, and whether the person meets you there or not doesn't matter, as long as you're true to yourself. And you will find that the second you start honoring yourself and just being so true to yourself, it gives off this completely different energy, and people are drawn to it. They're like, what is this? Like, this person doesn't care, you know, if I like her, if I don't, or if I like him, if I don't, but they're so sure of who they are and they know what they want. People are drawn to it because you don't need them to be a certain way anymore. That's
an attractive quality, isn't it?
Very.
If you're sure of yourself and you've got inner confidence and you know that all is going to be okay, that's security, and someone's going to naturally be drawn to that. So I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to go on a date for the first time with somebody, then it's good to do a little role play as well. And like I said before, focusing on what might go right. Just have a little role play. Tell yourself it's all going to be good. And imagine having a laugh, having a bit of flirting going on, and it all going really, really well. And then you're much more likely to have a successful date when you do meet somebody. In fact, that's true of all interactions. Just imagine that you're going to have a nice time and treat someone like you already know them as well. So don't judge them on past experiences. Think about what might happen and who you and get to know them properly. I have to ask, what are the most important things that you learned? You said that you went through the whole process of finding yourself and getting to know who you are in order to do this. So are you in a relationship now at the moment?
Yes.
Okay, so good. So I can ask you the question then. What are the most powerful things that you've learned to get you to where you are now?
So the most powerful things I've learned, well, number one, accepting people exactly as they are. Don't ever try to change someone. Just accept people as they are. And, you know, you can have a conversation around what you need and you can adjust it and grow together. But, you know, don't try to change someone. I spent years trying to do that, and it is a dead end street.
It doesn't work.
No.
No.
And another thing I learned is that I'm responsible for my own happiness, my own peace, my own love within myself. And that even having a partner, which I have an amazing, incredible partnership, you know, I know he's not responsible for my happiness. And that's not what we're taught in our society, in our culture. But, you know, I'm responsible for my happiness. He's responsible for his happiness. We can support each other, but only we know what we need. So if you're going into it, you're expecting your partner to read your mind and know what you need, and without that's also a dead end street. And I've also done that.
Yeah, you can't change someone. You can't expect them to know what you're thinking. If you've got a problem, communicate it.
Yes.
Somebody emailed me before this podcast, a client, and I can't say too much for client confidentiality, but she's seeing someone, it's all amazing, but there's certain things that she expects from him that he's not providing. And she won't bring it up with him, and she probably can't change him. These things aren't going to change. And I said to her, look, maybe you can find somebody else as a friend to fill those extra needs that are there. Maybe you want to go, I'll give an example. Maybe she wants to go and see more films. Then find someone else to go to the films. That's what I would say. It doesn't need to place all the blame on one person, because nobody is perfect. No one is the complete package. But I think it takes two people to want to work together towards the end goal, which is just making each other happy. That's what it is. And dating should always continue. It took me a long time to find the right person. I did a lot of dating in my time, but I'm very happy. But even then, you still have to work on it all the time. And obstacles do get in the way. I've said this before on the podcast, things like children get in the way, pandemics get in the way, the weather can get in the way, all sorts of weird things. But you mentioned also that it took a long time to learn and made lots of mistakes, you said, until you did find the right person. Many of my clients have the same situation.
Yeah.
But I say, good, really, because it taught you to realize what you don't want. It's made you the person that you are and allows you to appreciate all the good things that you have now.
For sure.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes. I'm grateful for every single thing that I've gone through. And I didn't think I would say that, when I was going through it, but it's true. And, I would just encourage people not to expect anybody to make you happy. Like make yourself happy, because you can show up as the best version of yourself, whether you're in a partnership or not. But if you're thinking you're going to make someone happy, like that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. It's a bit needy as well to do that.
You just can't. It's just not possible.
It's not. You're absolutely right. But how can you be the best version of yourself? I ask a lot of coaches this on my podcast. It's a very, very common topic. And I love how so many things are common, because it's no matter what the coaching is, being the best version of yourself is so important. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that. I'll be quiet for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I personally believe that in order to be the best version of yourself, you need to know yourself on a very deep level. So you need to know everything. You need to know, the good in quotes, the not so good in quotes, because I don't think anything's really ever good or bad. It's just a reaction to your past and your environment. But, knowing yourself, knowing what works for you and what doesn't, making sure that you're aligned with someone who shares, the same values and wants to create the same things. Like all of those things will set you up for more success in relationship, and just the willingness to grow and use the relationship as a tool to expand and grow, whether it works out or it doesn't. Like you said, you can always use it as a way to learn something about yourself and, get closer to who you truly are. So I would say do the work on yourself. Like that's how you can be the best version of yourself. Because otherwise you're going to have things hijacking your brain, like subconscious patterns and beliefs, and causing, reactions, which will wreak havoc on your relationships.
Yeah. The work never stops. You have to keep working on yourself and your relationship always.
Absolutely.
You mentioned a lot of your clients at the moment are people that have had breakups. And I've noticed that a lot during the pandemic as well, since lockdown we had, because people have realized they don't want to stay with someone that's making them unhappy. It doesn't serve them. And I love that. I think that's great, because life is just too short to waste time on the wrong people. And there's someone out there for everybody. And it is a really positive time for dating, I believe. Despite these breakups, they've been set free to go and meet somebody else. What are your thoughts on the whole new normal dating styles? What are your thoughts on that? Is it positive?
Well,
What's going to happen?
I mean, I think anything is possible at any time if you believe it, right? So like I have clients that say, well, maybe I should just stop using the apps. Maybe the apps aren't the way to meet someone. And I really believe that, work on yourself and become the person that can receive the kind of relationship you want to create, right? Yeah. So, and then it will come to you in any channel. Through the apps, you might meet the person, who's at the grocery store next to you. You never know, but just prepare yourself. And I don't think it's so much like how to meet somebody or if there's a pandemic or if there isn't. Of course, it's more challenging because you're literally meeting when you have masks on, at least here.
And here as well.
Yeah. So it does add some layers, but I think everything, you can figure it all out. But what you need to figure out is, what do you want to create? And how do you become the person who can hold that, like hold space for that kind of a relationship? Because otherwise you're going to be running in a hamster wheel.
It's knowing what you have to offer as well. And it's knowing what your USPs are, what makes you special, what makes you so dateable, and knowing your value. And this has given us the opportunity to do that and to reflect upon it and think, well, I can do this. I'd like to do that. Maybe I want to learn some new skills. If your life isn't particularly exciting right now, you're not being the best version of you. You're not going to be attracting the right people. So go out there now. There's still time. This could go on for some time. Go and learn some new skills. Try some online classes. You never know who you're going to meet. Opportunities are everywhere, masks or not.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a really good time overall. What would you say to somebody who is coming to you and they are completely confused about what to do in terms of finding a new relationship? Where did you meet your partner? I may ask that question. And what would you give someone the advice? Coming towards the end now, but I'd like to keep asking you a few questions.
Sure.
Because it's great chat. So
yeah. So I met him on an app that's called Bumble. I don't know if you guys have that one.
We do. It's an interesting one. Women that gets a message first, don't they? Yeah.
So, and I actually like that because I just prefer it that way. So I met him on Bumble, but you know, I basically created a system for myself after years of doing it in ways that didn't work.
What is your system? Share your system.
Yeah, this is my system. And if it helps people, great. But what I would do is I would just match with somebody and message them and just say, hi, like, and if they write back, talk for maybe, you know, a couple minutes and just let them know that, you know, I'm really not a big fan of these apps. I would love to chat on the phone for a few minutes.
That's my technique.
Yeah.
That's what I teach. Absolutely agree. 100%.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. And otherwise it just doesn't work. So, and if the person doesn't want to do that, because some of my clients like, well, then the person didn't respond to me. Great. Move on. You know, it's not a match. It's not a fit. So that's how I met my partner. We talked on the phone, we met, and it was just a really good fit from the beginning.
That completely proves what I tell all my clients, and it works because what people tend to do is they go on from the app and they're texting away endlessly. And they say, you've got WhatsApp. Have you got tech? They go and do it on there. The conversation carries on. You've lost the anonymous part of it. And therefore you're giving out your personal details. And what is the point of just texting away? Speak on the phone and you can work out, do you like the sound of their voice? Do they sound fun for about 10 minutes? Are they the sort of person you want to meet? If they're not, great, let's catch up again in a few weeks' time. I'm a bit busy. Get rid of them, block them. They won't remember you again. That's what I'd say. But keep doing it. And the people that won't talk to you on the phone are probably the time wasters, the ones that are catfishing you, the ones that are in relationships. The ones that are willing and confident enough to talk to you on the telephone are the ones you've got a chance of having a deep, more meaningful relationship. And I'm so pleased you said that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a simple technique, but it really does work and it eliminates time waste. And it sets things up right from the start in the way you want it to be. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jessica. Now, if someone wants to get hold of you and they want to find out more about what you do, how would they find you?
So you can go to my website, which is jesshendrick.com. And I also am on Instagram at jesshendrick111. And also, James, I wanted to offer the first 2 people that reach out to me who've listened to this podcast, I would love to offer a pro bono session with me. So I'd love to connect with your listeners.
Brilliant. I hope they're listening to this and they can reach out to you and find out more and get a free session. That's a great offer. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Thanks
wonderful. Absolute pleasure. And I'm sure we could talk for hours here, but it is quite getting later here in the UK, and you've got up especially for me in the morning in America to do this. So I really do appreciate it. And thank you very much. And hopefully I can talk to you again soon another time.
Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespriest.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.